Hi, and welcome back to the Untypical Podcaster. So, as part of this little mini series, we have been talking about the things that would be useful to do before you start your podcast. And I'll put my glasses on for this one. But if you're anything like me, I sometimes just need to go ahead and do it. So, I am not telling you how to do this. I am giving you some information that you might want to listen to before, which might make things easier, but hey, who always does things the easy way? I don't. But you also might start to listen to it whilst you're in the middle of it, or whilst you're a couple of episodes deep. Whichever way, it doesn't matter, because there's always a way back. My mum told me that there's always a way around, and I truly believe that. So if you're watching this later and you've already started and thinking, oh my God, I should have done this earlier, well, I was in that boat. And if you've only just found me, this could be what you're looking for. So we talked about, where do you start? Finding your topic, finding your niche, finding your area. We talked about the name. We talked about naming your podcast and how to name it. We talked about how often were you going to run and do your podcast, depending on your time, your energy, your availability and money. We talked about knowing your why you wanted to do your podcast. And this one is about deciding whether you're going to do guest or solo episodes. Now, I started off with guest episodes. Some of that was around my own anxiety. So I was worried about who was going to listen to me, that I was going to get guests in to talk. But what I quickly realised was that I absolutely love talking to other people. And I can do these little one-to-ones like this, but I love talking to other people. But I was being told I'd set off, and I'd set off and not done much research. You might discover a theme running through this. And I had gone off doing my guest episodes. And I then got some advice along the way that actually that wasn't what you should do. When you set up a podcast, it should be about your creating your own authority, showing what you know. And by bringing in guests, you were basically doing that for them rather than you. I can see how that is the case. I can understand that. Do I agree with it? No. I think by having guests, and I think it depends on you. I think it depends on you as a person. And that's what I suppose all of these episodes are about, is making a podcast that fits you. Now, I like talking to other people. I love it. I like listening into other people's conversations on the train, in the cafes, in restaurants, wherever. I'm really fascinated by other people. So because I like that so much, I hope that comes across in my podcast, is that I'm enjoying talking to these people and we have a conversation. Some we have more conversations than others. Some have got something to talk about that I'd have very little knowledge about. And actually, I use my podcast to learn. I don't ever set myself up as an expert, because somebody is always going to come along that knows more. And just like this channel, I am not an expert podcaster, but I have learned some things along the way. And if they're helpful, use them. If they're not, don't come at me. Go somewhere else. So I chose guests, and I actually brought in some solo podcasts, and I still do solo podcasts, but I use them much more sporadically. And I have used guest interviewee type, more conversation. I try and keep them quite laid back rather than interview style. They're just a chat between two people. And I'm going to talk a bit more further down the line about how you do that, how you create situations, environments, conversational type style interview techniques with your guests, if you're going to use guests and have guests on, so that it feels more flowing rather than very abrupt of here's my question, you answer, my question, you answer, which works for some people. And if that's what you prefer, again, I hope you're getting a thread through this. It's what works for you. So yeah, I think it does show your authority. If you start to talk and you're doing a podcast and it's just you talking, then that's cool. That is really cool. And a bit like these videos, I know I might have some guests in along the way, but actually it's just going to be me talking. They're little, they're short, they're direct and to the point. But actually, some people like the more in-depth ones. So don't be swayed by, I should do this. I should do solo episodes before I get to guest episodes. I should do guest episodes before I do solo episodes. What works for you? And if, like me, when you started off, you were feeling anxious about it, thinking, no one wants to listen to me talk. I didn't even know whether I'm any good at this. I actually want to bring somebody in because having somebody else in there to talk with, and I do believe this one, is much easier than planning and doing solo episodes where you're talking on your own. When you do ones that are more focused just on you, you have to think much more about your communication, about your style. And again, we'll go into that in more episodes further down the line about how do you do solo episodes, keep them interesting, keep them flowing, how do you communicate well, all of that kind of stuff. So I always think my podcast is about, it's not what I can get from my podcast. It's what I can give with my podcast in the most enjoyable way. Now, I've got a business and I run my business, and that needs to make me money. It needs to make me money to survive. I don't rely on my podcast for that at all. My podcast actually at the moment makes me no money. I think people hear about me possibly in the podcast and might come to me indirectly then to do work with me, but it's very difficult to track where that's coming from. And as I say, there'll be people and experts out there that are much better at telling you how to make money from your podcast. But I think if you start with your podcast and the starting point is always, what can I give? And not what does it give me, but what can I give? And what can I give in the most enjoyable way? Because I hope you're getting this theme all the way along. If you don't enjoy your podcast, you're going to burn out. It's never going to go anywhere. People will pick up. People will pick up how you talk, how they watch you. If they watch you doing a video once, again, we'll do another episodes about that, about whether you do video or audio. People will pick up on you. So you have got to make your podcast fit you, suit you, be you. And that can be hard. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that one. That's the last one today, thinking about whether you're going to do guest or whether you're going to do solo episodes. And you know what I do? I do a mix. I do both. And sometimes I do it in different ways. And sometimes I've had two people on and me. It's been 3 of us. And again, that takes different skills. So think about what you find easier. If you find it easier to talk on your own, start there. If you think, actually, I'd prefer to have someone else to bounce off, start there. There's no right or wrong. Pick what works for you. Anyway, make sure to like and subscribe so that you'll get alerted for the next one that comes along. And yeah, take care, and I will see you soon. See you later.